Hello and welcome. We are here talking about leadership essentials. And I have the deep pleasure of being with Derrick Britt today. Derrick Britt is the Vice President of Fraud Investigations and Operations with Goldman Sachs. He and I have known each other for some time, and I've watched him grow in his career. And I thought he would be an amazing role model and someone with an interesting background for you to meet as well. So, Derrick, do you want to just give a quick intro of yourself?
Yeah, of course. Look, you have actually seen me grow from a very young lad to where I am today. But yeah, my name is Derrick. I am a vice president over at within the fraud investigations and detection space within Goldman Sachs. I've been here for roughly 3 years this year, but my experiences has been within the past 11 years out of undergrad. So here I am, and good to see you again, Leanne.
So good to see you too, Derrick. I'm so proud to see you growing in the way that you have and continue to. I know a little bit about your path to leadership, and I think it would be helpful for people to hear it to understand that people have different journeys, and some people make big leaps, some people take very slow jumps. So, would you just share your path to leadership?
I will say that mine was not fast. It wasn't slow either, though. But I mean, I think if you ask the average person, it's been a nice trajectory. But my path to leadership was a combination of performance, passion for the work, and also just a genuine desire to help others grow. I know as an investigator, I was doing, for me at least, a decent amount of work, and the output was looking good as well in terms of my production and quality. And I wanted to reach a larger platform, but I started in the role as a phone agent, where I focus more so on customers and curing their accounts of any fraud concerns, but verbally. It was very frontline, but I was always curious to know what was next. And over the time, I just consistently sought out opportunities to streamline processes and improve my performance and other people's performance, and collaborate with some of my colleagues on solving some of their complex problems. And eventually, leadership recognized not just the results that I delivered, but also the way that I naturally step into mentorship roles with peers, and even hearing some of the dialogue around you specifically not having a ceiling. And I think that kind of helped me progress and want to progress throughout my career to where I am today. But hopefully, I continue to grow within this space. But that's when I was promoted into a team leader role actually at Capital One in the AML space. And but most importantly for me, leadership wasn't just about being good at the job. It was more so about helping the team perform at their best and fostering a supportive and high performing environment.
Mhm. And it sounds like you had that modeled for you when you had someone say to you, "Look, Derrick, there's no ceiling for you." And you had the gift of a mentor and someone believing you and saying that to you. Did that inspire you to trickle down and support others?
Most definitely. And the funny thing is, I try to tell folks that now today, especially not just to say it, but it's definitely the ones that I can really see it in. But the same thing that was given to me, I try to give it back twofold and let others know that not only was I the only one that kind of followed suit or could follow suit based off of just getting some right direction from some powerful leaders, but also I can be one of those powerful leaders that kind of stood in the way for me, and
Mhm.
maybe assist someone else get to where they want to go or where they should go, at least in my opinion. But obviously, they make the outcome of where they want to go.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of it is about that person and what steps they
Right.
take. What a gift you've been to other people. And I love how you said that it's not about producing, not just about producing good work, but about growing others. And I think some people miss that when they first, especially when they first get promoted, they think, okay, I need to continue doing what I was doing because that is what got me noticed. And maybe don't spend the time developing their team as much as they could or should.
Right. Right. Yeah, it wasn't for me, it wasn't necessarily just about me and my work. I knew that the assistance could have been given for the work that I was doing before. Instead of one person, why not 60 people? And
Mm.
kind of using that to project across the entire firm.
Yeah, fantastic. So you actually leverage your team to increase the results.
I did. I did.
So you've done a lot of great things. What about the mistakes? Did you make any mistakes when you first became a manager or two?
Absolutely. I did make mistakes along the way. One of the biggest mistakes that I made early on was just trying to solve every problem by myself.
Mm,
Um, I was so used to being hands on. Mind you, I came from the investigation background and also being in the front line speaking to customers. but I was so used to being hands-on and executing at a high level that I initially struggled to delegate some of the work, and even now within my current role as a VP within the firm, I was actually promoted into this space. So as you continue to promote into certain spaces, you're also used to doing the work that you're giving now and the work that you previously did.
Mm,
So delegating is something that you have to kind of grow into. But I thought being a strong leader meant having all of the answers.
mm,
But I quickly realized that it was more about just empowering the team. So delegating some of those items that you were doing to get you where you are to now your junior members who are probably within the same position that you were in when you were doing the role previously. For instance, that was a situation where I was actually doing some reviewing of like service levels. We call them SLAs within our space. But as I continued to grow, I knew that my capacity was getting thinner and thinner.
mm.
So those items and those initiatives that I initially had then, I had to now delegate off to some of my associates and some of my analysts and senior analysts that I just didn't have the capacity to do it anymore. But I learned that when you trust your team with ownership and responsibility, they feel even more engaged and collective outcomes are stronger than what one person can achieve alone, which was me at that point. And I now have a whole team of folks.
And there's a lot of research backing that up from Gallup and Deloitte and SHRM, the Society for HR Management, that says trust is the number one thing that promotes engagement and commitment from your team. And when they see that you trust them, they have this feeling of independence and they're feeling like their work matters. So delegating work that matters, not just the stuff you don't want to do, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's funny. I'm actually going to veer off a bit, but I'm currently even reading a book right now titled uh, "Who, Not How," and it kind of brings me back to saying, now, look, you don't have to have all of the answers. It's more so about how can you get this, or who can you get the how from. And
Mm.
now I have a team of who can now go out and get those hows for me, and they can bring it back. And I've actually been growing in the space too, but also still reading that book of saying, hey, you don't have to direct them on how to do it. Let them do it. They know what you need. Let
Mhm.
them get the resources that they need to get the answers for you. So I'm doing a lot better in that space now too.
And I love that you're a VP and you're still growing. You're still learning. You're still shaping how you're leading your team and empowering them to grow. I think some people will get to a certain point and they think, okay, I'm here. I don't need to go to any more trainings or read any more
No,
books.
no, absolutely not. Leanne, it's funny because actually this year, within the past year, a few things happened in my personal life that said, "Hey, Derrick, let's go ahead and instill yourself into this space. This is where you should stay. Don't try to venture out elsewhere, and
Mhm.
let's get serious about your career." Good point that you just brought that up. But this year, I'll be moving into more conferences and more learning environments, and also networking a little bit more too, so I can kind of get my face and my voice in front of other crowds of folks within my industry. But that
Mhm.
also helps me learn a ton more from different areas and different people from different areas around the world too. So I'm looking forward to it.
Networking is so important. You just continue to increase your awareness of how things are done and learning about what you don't know and how other
Right,
people are doing things.
right, and just different things of doing it as well. I mean, your way isn't always the right way.
Yeah, of course. That's a good point. Did you ever get into a situation where you didn't come in as the leader, like being hired as the leader, but you were promoted from within and then had to manage people who you once worked side by side with? Was that ever true for you?
Yeah, yeah, it was. Speaking of, it was within my last company at Capital One, where I grew from a senior investigator into now a people leader.
Hmm.
But I think that the key to navigating that transition is, for me at least, is communication, making it clear. But I would schedule my one-on-one conversations with each of my team members, especially my previous peers, to acknowledge the shift and also share my genuine intent to support their success and the team's goals. But
Hmm.
yes, I have come across that, and I think every good leader has as well, whether it be within or just coming new within the org. But yes, I have.
It's really good to hear that you had one-on-ones with people to have an open conversation about the shift and how you're moving from the person next to them to now supervising them, and that you have the intention of growing them personally and the team. I think that's a really important conversation.
It is. It is. I mean, because I think that one, you want them to be able to gain that trust in you, not just as a peer anymore, but now as a leader. Can you lead them, and how can you instill that trust in them at that promotion time to know that they're following the right person?
How important are one-on-ones to continue doing that?
Oh, very important. I think one-on-ones are so important. Me personally, I'm more of a one-on-one person anyway.
Mhm.
I like my feedback to be one-on-one. Some folks like to be congratulated one-on-one as well. Some folks don't want to be congratulated in front of a group. So I make sure that I am consistent in that space. And I'd make sure I ask each person in those one-on-ones, how would you like to be congratulated? Or how would you like the feedback? But one-on-ones are critical even for just pulse checks, for providing that feedback to your folks, to your team.
Mhm.
But I honestly get one-on-ones a very, very critical piece of my role. And I
Mhm.
also would prefer to continue to get one-on-ones from my leadership as well. So that I can get those yearly updates in terms of where I am, where you would like to see me go, and how am I doing going towards that direction that you would like to see me go into. But also trying to meet my goal expectations as well. So a very critical piece within my industry, at least. But I can't think of an industry where one-on-one shouldn't be or wouldn't be integral.
So that brings up two more questions. First of all, how often do you have your one-on-ones with your team? And then also, I love that you talked about getting feedback from your senior VP. How often does that happen?
Great question. For me, for my direct reports, I tend to have a one-on-one with them at least once a week. I know in my previous org it was roughly every 2 weeks, but
Mhm.
because I'm in a very fast-paced environment, I tend to do a one-on-one per week with each of my direct reports, and the same for my senior VP. My senior VP, he does have a weekly meeting with me as well. Now, if it's anyone that's a skip, so if there's any skip levels, we
Mhm.
would tend to do maybe once a month, and then anyone that skipped from that would be maybe once a quarter. So, but I tend to do my directs, whether it be up or down,
Mhm.
once a week.
How big is your team?
My direct team is three. I have two folks here within the United States, and I have one person in India. And in terms of my entire team, oh man, that ranges between about 150 people roughly
Mhm.
that
So
report
when you
to
have so when you have skip levels, you're meeting with your direct reports team members. How often do you do that?
me. So the skip level for me would be, it's still going to be a people leader, but I tend to meet with them maybe once a month.
Mhm.
And then if it's a double skip, it's usually about once a quarter. But I will say that my double skip folks that are reporting to me, they know that I have an open door policy. So if they need to connect, they can. And I think that's important too, to let them know,
Mhm.
like, hey, we have an open door policy. If you see some space on my calendar, it's yours if you want to book it.
Nice.
So I do make it very clear that that open door policy is going to be given to them as well as the rest of my leaders too.
You have given some incredible points here. You've talked about letting people know you believe in them and that there's room for growth, having one-on-ones to let people be really clear that you have good intentions around helping them grow and doing the best for the team, resetting expectations when you make that transition from peer to supervisor, having regular one-on-ones, skip levels, even double skip levels when appropriate. So my final question for you is, what advice would you give to someone who is moving into a management role for the very first time?
I think my biggest piece of advice is to embrace the mindset of learning and humility.
Mm.
Um, you don't need to have all the answers on the first day. I mean, granted, I am a vice president today, promoted over a year ago, and I'm still taking it upon myself to make sure that I show up to conferences, make sure I'm still reading books, is the one I just called out just a moment ago. Make sure I'm still getting best practices from some of my peers, even from some of my reports that directly reporting to me. They're some of the most knowledgeable people. They have answers as well. And I know that I won't have all of the answers, and I tend to lean on a lot of folks as well. You won't have those answers on day one.
Mhm.
Take time to understand your team. I would say also understand their strengths and any challenges that they face as well. And then, secondly, communication is important, at least for me. Be transparent about your goals, your expectations, and any decisions that you are making or have to make. Don't be afraid to ask for any feedback. And then what that shows in itself, vulnerability. But it
And that
also
builds
builds trust.
trust.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. See, same time too. It builds trust and it helps you grow. But lastly, third, remember that leadership is about people and not results.
Mm.
Now, I will say it is a nice mix of the two. It is about people and results, especially the industry that you're in, but it's more about people. And when you focus on developing and supporting the team, the performance and the results will follow. So those are my three takeaways that I would give as any pieces of advice for anyone that's new, stepping into leadership, or even an experienced leader that's still looking for a way to grow.
Those are all fantastic suggestions. And that book again was Who Not How.
Who Not How, and the author is Dan Sullivan.
Fantastic. Derrick, what great advice. Excellent tips for not just brand new managers, but people who are looking for ways to expand their leadership and be even at greater service to their team. So thank you for your time today.
Of course, Leah. Thank you for having me. It's always good to see you and chat with you too. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you next time.